Hi, I'm Arvin.
And I'm Shiloh.
And I'm David, and this is WonUp.
After Dark. Sorry, we have to interrupt your chicken.
No, I got to eat chicken.
We're going to freak out some people who don't like listening to other people eat this podcast. Apparently, we got chicken, we got Maltesers and popcorn and
snacks.
Yep.
You know what? Shut up. I had a long day.
I didn't.
This is the start of my day, technically. Anyways.
Let me eat the chicken. Alright.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Today we have a bunch of cool, interesting things to talk about. And we're going to let Shiloh go first today.
Oh, that was my tummy. My tummy objects to this. Alright. Well, I guess my topic is going to be in horror right now, just because it is a big thing coming around with it coming out, which is going to be super terrifying. But anyways.
This is coming from the person who, by the way, is forcing me to watch horror movies. So her saying that this is terrifying kind of makes me want to not see the movie.
That's only because I'm scared of clowns, though, so there's a reason for this. And the Pennywise of the past was already scary to me, but this one just looks insane, and I can't have that.
It's not
like,
very...
I was kind of eased into it when I was like trying to rewatch it again because it's like, it's Tim Curry's voice, so I should trust it, right? But no, there's no trust there. It's just a demon spider clown.
Yep.
Wait, a demon spider clown?
Oh yeah, it got real weird at the end.
It's Stephen King.
So it's not. So just for us for those of us who have never really watched it or know anything about it except from the trailers that came out previous to the 2017 remake. What is it?
Oh, okay. So
Without giving too much away.
Without giving too much away. So without too many spoilers, technically it is just a manifestation of some kind of like demon that would like pry on the weakness of children and stuff like that. It wasn't actually like, it disguises itself as something that's friendly, so a clown, to... Yeah,
Hold up.
I know. I don't know. There's nothing friendly.
In what world are clowns friendly? But go on.
In no world are they ever enjoyable. They are just horrifying little things that want to destroy you and your life and your dreams and your hopes. Everything, you know. But, so, for some reason, it's just like this, I believe it's just this, once again, you're asking somebody who watched it most of the time behind a couch. So, it's not exactly like I was like, yes, let's analyze this movie like every other horror movie I watch. It was more, this is horrifying, push couch away from back of wall, hide behind. But, so, from what I gathered from it, it's just a demon that actually, like, preys on, like, children and, like...
Their fears.
And their fears. So, It doesn't have to be a clown. He just shows up as a clown just to kind of gain your trust as something, like, that's fun. And then he turns into whatever you're most scared of.
Okay.
So, whether it be, like, werewolves, giant-ass spider, who the f*** knows, or a f***ing clown. Because, you know, it's a clown.
It just doesn't change.
He didn't even have to do the work for that one. Would have just looked at me and been like, yeah, I'm good.
Wasn't there a Harry Potter monster that they went up against in an Defense Against the Dark Arts classes? That was kind of
the
like
Jack
that?
in the Box. Oh, it was the...
I don't remember what it's called.
Bogart or something.
Something like that. The Bogart,
yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure anyways.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the Bogart.
And then somebody had like Jack in the Box, and it was like a big clown thing.
Yeah.
And then it turned into I don't remember.
A snake, a spider, things like that, and everything.
Snape.
Snape and drag.
Snape and drag.
Yeah, completely fine. But, so besides that, my actual topic that I wanted to get into was the irritation I feel watching many, many different kinds of horror movies, and there always seems to be like one trope in most of them, whether it be like a really good horror movie or a really bad horror movie. And that is the male character for the sake of being the male character. And I don't mean like oh no, there's a guy in a horror movie. No, that's fucking stupid. What I'm talking about is the over-aggressive male who is just male and for no other reason is male. And it's just like, hey, I'm the man. I make the decisions. There's nothing going on here. Deny, 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 deny.
And that reminds me of...
Hatred. Dick.
That reminds me of an excellent horror movie called Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Where that whole movie is a deconstruction of the horror genre, pretty much. And that pretty much happens. Because there's one scene where they decide to stick together to figure out what's going on. And then within the cabin, there's like this gas that gets released, and then Chris Hemsworth's character, he's like, no, you should split up. And everybody's like, yeah, we should split up. And of course the Stoney's like, what are you guys talking about? That's stupid. But again, that's kind of like the lead male role telling everybody else to do something and everybody agrees.
And like, it happens a lot, and I'm just like, I've watched really good horror movies and I've watched really bad horror movies, but it's always just like the male character, whether it be the dad, the husband, boyfriend, whatever, and they're always like, no, let's go, it's okay, guys. And then they get mad at you when you decide, hey, it's a smart idea to leave, and it's like, no, you're all chicken, blah blah blah, dick. It's so utterly irritating as a trope, just because you're sitting there and you're looking at the screen and you're like, you're a dumb motherfucker. And it's like, why do you have to be so stupid? And it's like, why does every horror movie need this character to be a horror movie? Like, it's unnecessary. And they're always in there.
Not all horror movies, but a lot of them do.
A lot of them, a majority of them, I would agree.
A large majority of them.
But I mean, think about it. Let's say we were in that horror situation, right? I mean, I think it wouldn't be too far from reality that someone were to, come out dick a-swinging and going, I'm taking charge here. I mean, in a zombie situation, I'd like to think that would be me, but I'd probably be the first one to die because I'm fat. So, it's
was
probably
it rule
not gonna
number
be me.
2, like cardio, which from Zombieland?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cardio. So, it's, I think it's not unrealistic per se. I don't think so anyways. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But in a situation like that where you do have a dominant male character, I think that would happen. And, maybe they wouldn't make the smartest decisions in the world. But yeah, it does get annoying when you have that overly masculine, like, I play football, therefore I know how to defeat this demon. Like, that's bullshit. I mean, let's take it to Stranger Things, actually. You have a very similar sort of character there, and you mentioned Chris Hemsworth in Cabin in the Woods. Totally, 100%. One of my favorite horror movies, actually, and there's a rare number of horror movies that I actually like, but even in movies like As Above, So Below, the male character isn't necessarily the most masculine person, but he still makes the stupidest decisions on Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's like kind of horror movies in general, where they just make stupid decisions for the sake of the movie. Whereas, like, if somebody was actually in that position, they probably wouldn't make that decision. Where like you're like, there's a classic I don't know scenes in movies where people are yelling at the screen, being like, "Don't go in the closet" or "Don't go in that room," and I figure that people probably wouldn't generally just like, oh, it's suspenseful, I'm gonna open this door. If there's like a monster around, they're probably gonna hide forever and like not go out and explore and try and do all this stuff.
I don't know, like, I get the f*** out right away, and like, I wouldn't give a shit and be like, I don't care if anyone sits there and be like, oh, you're just a chicken. I'd be like, yeah, but this chicken's gonna be alive, so thanks, I'm out.
Okay, well, let's, for the sake of argument, then say, we were dictators in, some Hollywood land, and we were the ones producing. You know what? Let's just say we're in North Korea. All right? I'm Kim Jong-il, and I say, let's make a horror movie.
Because you so ill.
Right? But no stupid male characters, and every single character has to make decisions that a normal person would make. It would, in a movie like Paranormal Activity, they move into the house. They find out that it's haunted. They don't stick around and try to talk to the demon. They get the out of there. End of movie.
Yep.
Would that make for a better movie? I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but would it make for a better movie if they did make better, more human-like decisions rather than scripted decisions?
It depends on the situation, I think.
I feel like if it went that way, then writing would have to actually be clever.
Burn.
I know that's asking for a lot, but it would actually have to be more clever. They'd actually have to sit there and think of ways why they couldn't actually leave. Whether it be financial issues, like they just financially, maybe they moved across like the country and we have absolutely nowhere to go, so they really honestly have to stay there. And even less like them staying in the backyard and getting with in the backyard. Just because it's like they can't go anywhere.
Fair.
Because of like a situation that makes them stay, not just because I have the dick. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, that means I stay here. Ghost, blah, 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 blah. Like that.
So in a movie then, let's say, where you do have the classic strong-headed male character that does all these stupid decisions, but the writers justify it. They justify it much like in Cabin in the Woods, where, you know, some secret gas came out that made them make the stupid decision. Would that satisfy you, do you think?
That would satisfy me more. Like, if it was going into a ghost story and say the main guy got possessed and he's making these stupid decisions because of that reason, I would accept that more than him just being like, I'm strong-headed because I'm the male character. You have to listen to me. And the fact that everyone listens to him beyond reasonable doubt is the thing that hurts me. It's just like, as a human, if you know someone's doing something stupid, do you just stand there and be like, yep, that seems right? It's like, no, you're like, you're a dumb I'm out of here.
Yeah, like, what was I just
Unless
thinking?
everyone is as stupid as the main character.
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking, it depends on the situation. Like, or even if we take the house example, right? You move into this brand new house, even maybe if it's, if you are financially stable and you are able to move out, well, what if the house is possessed? Like, there's not ghosts in the house, but the house itself is...
It's a possession.
So, like, they can't get out because of the possessed house playing tricks with their mind, or
making them think that they're going out of the door. And
that
they're just
reminds me
coming
of a
back in.
really good horror movie. Again, another one in the very short list that I have.
Yeah.
I think it's called Oculus or something like that, where they
Oh,
do
for
try.
fuck's sake.
They try to run away from the house, but then they end up there again. Love that. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, but
depends on how you write it. Because, like, I
Oh, yeah,
understand that
definitely.
characters have to make kind of those stupid decisions to build suspense and to forward the movie some more, but sometimes it's just like, who would ever say that or do that, or like anything, right? It just takes you out of the movie. And even if you try and do the whole suspension of disbelief, like if it's a possession movie or a ghost movie, just a regular person just doing something that nobody would do is just like it just takes you out of the movie. And then, like, we've been in those situations where we were watching a stupid movie and it's like, why would you do that? Why? And then we just start complaining and we start yelling. And
What was that movie that we were watching with the slaughterhouse?
Oh
and
my god.
what was that
I
called?
don't remember.
I can't
You mean
remember.
with the kid being
Yeah,
possessed?
yeah. Like,
And then
see,
they had like the CSI Miami
Yeah.
scene all of a sudden,
So, I
where it's like
totally
the
understand that.
deconstruction of like what they're gonna do, and it's like, why did you need that as a scene? I was like, that makes no sense for this entire movie. Where he's like, okay, this is what we do: we chop up the body, we put it like in acid, and then we get mason jars, and it's like, where would we get mason jars? It's like, no, get the out of here, you stupid little.
Yeah, and they were in destroyed
insane
facility.
asylum or
It was
something?
an
Yeah.
asylum.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
God.
they couldn't get out, even though the windows were like, obviously you can get out of the windows, and it didn't
If you
seem to be that
broke
high.
them.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was one of those movies that it was made to be stupid for the sake of being a stupid horror movie.
Oh, I
Maybe.
hope to God so. And like just the extent of how large that basement was compared to the actual size of the building. Like,
Yeah, usually
basement
that
went
doesn't
on for
help.
days. That was another thing that just like suspended my belief, especially when they like would run through areas, so you kind of got like visual of where everything connected, and then they'd end up someplace completely different. And you're like, where did you even? It's like, was there a portal? I didn't see it.
See, I think what we're touching on here is very simply, I think there is a need for better writing.
Yeah, because there are some
Care
really
topics.
good horror movies out there. Like The Conjuring was really good. Cabin in the Woods, It apparently is getting some pretty good reviews.
I'm gonna watch that through a hat.
I'm excited, actually. To be honest, that it's
Yeah.
one of the first horror movies that I actually want to see.
Do you want to go see it in theaters?
Oh, totally.
Because we saw The Conjuring in theaters and it was so fun.
Oh, yeah, it was
Because like
great.
people were screaming, and then like there's like in The Conjuring there's the ghost that like does that,
Yeah.
and then there's one scene where the mom's at the top of the staircase, and then like these hands come out of the dark. And they do that, and the whole theater just scream. I'm like, ah,
And
yay!
then like halfway through, when like they were having kind of like an intense scene and everything was quiet, somebody in the audience did that and freaked everyone around him, and it was glorious. I was like, yes.
That's just
yes.
mean.
Oh, it was so funny. I'm gonna show up to it with like a blanket though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna be like,
Just bring
I
a
got a Snuggie.
red balloon.
So
with
you're
you.
gonna Arvin this entire
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring my trusty scary movie hat, so I could pull it over my eyes whenever I need at will, and have a blanket because there's no goddamn way that I'm ever doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess bottom line is I think horror movies. There's some really, really good ones. They're just far and few between, and it'd be great to see some better writing. But Hollywood is Hollywood, and they just like to shit out movies. And
I cut out that male character for the sake of male character because I know y'all are smarter. You know y'all are smarter.
yeah,
That.
yeah. All right. So from that onto my topic, which is completely different. I've been thinking of retroism in movies and video games, and this kind of ties back to the topic I kind of talked about last time. But like, I don't know, like, is it important to have like callbacks and I don't know, having like a retro feel to stuff? Like when I say retro, I mean like
80s?
having new games come out, but they're using chiptunes and pixel art and that kind of stuff, or should we?
So you don't necessarily mean remakes of anything. You
No.
literally mean like
Or like
old school styled.
yeah,
games.
or games or movies. Like there's Blade Runner 2046, I think, coming out soon, which is based on an 80s movie, like which could be considered retro and all this kind of stuff. And it's like just kind of interesting to see that nowadays, because like nowadays we have like 3D platformers, first-person shooters, lots of 3D rendering, right?
Well, if you think about all the AAA release games that we're getting, right? There's kind of a premium being put on being realistic. It's not necessarily even a game anymore. It's becoming a simulation.
Yeah.
Which is, to me,
Yeah.
disheartening. It really is, because I don't want to play grayscale Call of Duty and call it Battlefield 1. Like, that's not what I want to play.
Yeah, and also they're coming out with Call of Duty World War II. I'm like, didn't they already do that like 10 years ago? Yeah. But on that simulation thing, I was talking to Charlotte about this a while ago. But with VR, for instance, VR I think has its place. I don't think it's really going anywhere, but you can't play Super Mario World on a VR. I mean, you could, but it's pointless, right?
It'd be
Or
really
side scrollers, or third person scrollers, or puzzle games, or that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know, like.
I would have to disagree, 100% with that. I honestly think VR is here to stay.
Well, yeah, I'm not
Honestly,
saying it's
I
going
am-
anywhere.
I'm looking forward to Ready Player One sort of
I
scenarios.
knew you were going there.
Right? Because 100% I want that future. I want that future
Alright,
so badly.
Let's go from retro to VR instead. Because I think that's...
Well, no, I mean, with retro, why not? Right? Because if you take... See, what I really liked about the games that, the really old school 8-bit, like really, really old, but really, really colorful games is that they were fantastic. Right? To a point that they were filled with a fantasy that you can kind of, draw from.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah. But see, it's great because, I don't know, it's fun again, A video game doesn't necessarily have to be, let's make the most realistic war scenario, or even, let's make it look as pretty as possible. Like, pretty, yes. But, I mean, I was actually thinking of this, but before I settled on the topic that I wanted to talk about tonight, one of the things that I was looking into was this whole, what's the word, like, dick swaying about having the best graphics ever. Right? And that to me is just like, why? Why is this a thing? Right? Give me... You know what one of my favorite games is, stupidly enough, is that game where you control this little spaceship and comes flying at you and you need to shoot the... It's kind of like... No, it was kind of like Asteroids. It's kind of like Asteroids, but it was on like the Xbox Arcade. I played the shit out of that.
Geo Wars?
It had chiptune music. Everything was... I don't know. I loved the colors. I loved everything about it. Kind of. But I know which one you're talking about, but it's not that one. It's like a remake of that was available for Xbox Arcade.
Like
because
Asteroids or something? Or...
Yeah, kind of like that. But I was too poor to actually afford, like, an Xbox with the game, so I played the Xbox Arcade games, and that was great. Yep. But, maybe that does need to come back, and maybe, Retroism is going to be that wave. You have games that are isometric that keep coming back, like... what was it? Path of Exile is going strong at this point, and it's old school. It touches back on a lot of retro, which is great.
And something else also, I just realized, I haven't really looked up the definition of retro, but I feel like our generation is the first generation that can really use that term. Because when you think of retro, you think of maybe the 80s, right? But in the 80s... they didn't really have video games 20 years previous or like big blockbuster action sci-fi movies 20 years previous.
True.
Right? So I kind of feel like it's maybe not necessarily a new topic, but kind of a new topic. Or not topic,
a new thing to latch onto, yeah.
Yeah.
But retro would have been turning the knobs on a radio.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But just some of the aesthetic is so cool. Like when you think of like 80s like neon kind of thing. There was the Punch movie where it's really ridiculous. It's half an hour. It's on Netflix.
Kung Fury.
Kung Fury.
Yeah, that was like really retro, but it was so fun.
So great.
And like there's the 80s synth and like that's so.
It's funny because you actually mentioned Blade Runner, and if you. Like, one of my favorite things on Netflix right now is, Jesus Christ, Stranger Things, which 100%, like, bring back the 80s, give me that. I grew up, like, 90s. Like, I was born in 1990. I did not experience that, right?
Yeah, same with me.
Bring that back because I love it. I need me more of that,
Yeah,
you know?
like there's the whole genre of music, synthwave, and synth revival, and it's just... like Laserhawk, Calm Trues, who else? There's a bunch of bands, but they're very like 80s synthwave, really cool like synth pads and like that kind of stuff. It's so fun to listen to, and it's like really motivating and yeah. But yeah, but then when I think of retro, I'm like, okay, so then 20 years from now. Will Call of Duty be retro? Will
who knows?
Or what's a brand new game that's coming that's like top of the like Destiny? Would that be retro?
You know what? Maybe at one point it probably will be. There's 100% chance that 40 years from now people might find like this podcast that we're recording and go, my God, they recorded just their voices? I mean, even podcasts, if you think about it, even podcasts are a thing that really harkens back to old time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I just
radio.
I just finished listening to Life After.
Okay.
It's a podcast that I am completely in love with, but it's an audio drama. Honestly, I was late going into work at one point because I needed to finish the one episode because I needed to know what happened there.
Okay.
But it's radio dramas. Like we look at that now and go, like if I told one of my coworkers that I'm listening to a radio drama and he goes, why? You can watch stuff like that on Netflix, and I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's cool.
It's like freaking campfire stories. Everyone wants to listen to
It's
them.
great.
Like,
And what's cool about that is that you can kind of create your own world in your head and kind of create
100%.
the characters that you see them based on whatever.
people can look like how you want. But...
And that's what I love about the about games like that stupid game where I'm just shooting these geometric shapes that are coming at me.
I think it's Geo Wars. Was it very neon-y?
Yes.
And it's probably Geo Wars.
Yeah, Geo Wars. That's it. That's
what
it.
I said.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. It is Geo Wars. But yeah, that's what I loved about that, because you know what? I don't need to see that. You know, this ship has thrusters and like, you know, has this and that and this and that. I don't need to see those graphics. I just enjoyed the game and I applied my own fantasy to it, and that was what was great about it. The same way that, you know, you take audio dramas and do the same thing. You know, in the same way that, you know, I want to listen to podcasts more now, because you know what? It's old, but it's still great.
Yeah, and it's so accessible too, because with podcasts, all you need is your phone or some sort of audio device and headphones, and that's it. You don't need a computer, you don't need a screen, you don't need a TV, you don't need anything. You can be on the bus if you have like a giant like 2-hour trip downtown, or like if you were flying or whatever. Just put on your headphones and just listen. Mm-hmm. You don't need to watch anything. You don't need to carry on the giant laptop.
In the same way, you don't need to play a game.
Mm-hmm. Geometry Wars?
That's the one.
Yeah, Geometry Wars. That's what it is.
In the same way, you don't need to play a game and be forced into something. Because right now, the only AAA release games that I can think of, apart from indie games, of course, is very one-dimensional in a way, because they're forcing this realism. You know?
Yeah, it depends on the game. Like, I keep on coming back to Breath of the Wild whenever I have lots of arguments about or discussions about stuff, because it really breaks the mold for Zelda games and for lots of AAA titles these days, because they Breath of the Wild kind of lets you do whatever you want. It doesn't like spearhead you, it doesn't railroad you in a certain direction. You can just do whatever the hell you want, and it's super fun.
There's no quick time events.
Yeah,
which like sometimes I'm okay with, but that was only because like
it depends.
That was only because I was playing that horror game that's more like a story, like a movie, than it is anything. Because you're not really doing. Yeah, that one. I really liked it just because it was kind of. it was pretty clever. Had to do with stuff that I actually knew about, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm an expert on this.
I think really what it is, you know, people will always end up wanting something different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the market's too saturated right now with games, with movies that are too. Right now, I guess this is the only way I can really put it.
Yeah, to look at my graphics, look at my how fast my bullet can go.
Yeah, but I think what's sad, on the other hand, is like you said, in 40 years, people are going to get tired of what we're looking for.
And then I'm like, what will video games look like in 40 years? Like, holy crap!
See, I think we're going to be those crotchety old people.
Turn back to Pong, but as an art piece, not really as a game.
Well, it is art, don't you know?
Yeah, we'll be those crotchety old people to be like, you know, in our days we played with a controller and a keyboard and a mouse.
Not in our minds.
It's like, whatever, Graham. He's like, got a full suit on and he's going into like the Star Trek virtual reality room.
Ready Player One, 100% going to happen. 100%. And I'm going to love it.
I think it's going to be really cool if and when
I can't even figure out space still. Like,
I mean, space is cool. Anyways, so on to the next topic.
oh dear.
Where he actually has notes.
Which is mine. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that this is kind of hard to talk about. Not because I don't want to. It's because...
There's lots of gray areas.
Well... There's a lot of things I want to say that I really probably should keep to myself, if only because I don't want to offend the people that I grew up with. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, I did grow in a Christian household.
Okay.
Right? My family is Christian, and I still call myself a Christian to this day, for whatever the worth of those words are now. And honestly, even writing this, I felt like I was throwing my religion under the bus.
I think it's good that you're kind of looking at your religion from an outside perspective. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, and you know what? That's from the outside, from the inside looking out. I guess is what I kind of want to put. This as.
Like
That's
inside
okay,
looking
Armin.
out, looking at a mirror, looking in.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is, right?
Armin, you're good peoples.
Besides the fact that I'm a
obvious.
Christian.
Well, no, just the ability to take yourself out of a situation and actually look at it objectively. You're good people.
And maybe
Everyone
that's
do that. Do that because I'm sick of your bullshit.
So, a disclaimer before I get into this. I'm not claiming that I know everything about the Bible, and I'm not going to be preaching at all, right? I'm not going to try to be evangelical or anything like that. That's not me 100%. I'm not going to do that. What I am doing, on the other hand, is I'm telling my side, what I saw, how I felt about it, and the conclusions that I, as a person, have come to because of that, right?
Cool.
So, what I'm talking about tonight is what I would call the demonification of geekery.
Okay.
Right, and this goes from everything from books to movies to board games to video games. It's everything.
World
It's
of
like a
Entertainment.
Christian
Yes.
family and all they have is like Monopoly to play, and it's like, why do you have this Satan board in here?
To be fair, Monopoly is the spawn of Satan.
It is.
It can't be explained in any other way.
It just shows you greed and how much you hate everyone else.
Yep.
So subtitle to this podcast, "The Geek Shall Inherit the Earth."
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a play on Matthew 5:5. It's the meek shall inherit the earth. I just kind of
Did you
threw
not know
that
that?
around.
Oh, David's the only one without a Christian background. So
Oh,
me and
no.
Orvin are.
You know what? That's actually fair. So I should have probably told you. It's a play on a Bible verse that says, "The meek shall inherit the earth." That's what Jesus said.
So sorry if anyone was
Sounds
fooled
familiar.
and all these Christian viewers or something.
So, but that's really just an example of how pervasive Christianity as a whole has been on me growing up, and it's still a part of me today. So I grew up as a Christian. My parents, totally tolerant though, right? They lucky as hell to have the parents that I have. They tolerant as all hell.
Okay.
They never forbid me from listening to the music that I like. They let me play video games within limits of me actually doing my schoolwork, which I didn't do anyways. But they never censored me. That's what I loved about my parents, is they never censored me. But not all parents were like that at all, right? And I have two examples that I'm going to share with you guys today from my personal life that kind of shows the worst side of parenting from a religious standpoint, because they stick and burn in my memory to this day. Like, there's a lot of anger behind them.
Oh, I got a lot of those. Also, I came up from like a Baptist church, so it's a little.
So you know.
Oh yeah, I know. Especially going to those gatherings, they were the worst.
So the first one is the Pokemon who freaked out. Right?
Oh.
So it could have been Digimon, I don't honestly remember, but it was a trading card game, right? And so I was at church hanging out outside of the sermon area, outside of the actual sanctuary, because you know what? I didn't want to listen to it, right? So I was hanging out around with the kids there, and I overhear one of these kids say that his mom punished him because Mom found my Pokemon cards.
Oh god.
Oh man.
Can I just say, my parents would always buy me Pokemon cards when I was younger, so.
See, my parents would never buy me stuff, but I played Pokemon, I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I played a lot of this stuff, right? So to me that was like, wow, really? You're going to freak out about that?
Right, yeah.
So, what was even worse is that a couple days later I heard through like one of the older kids that the mom apparently started crying during Bible study for everyone to pray for her kid, because her kid might be going down some demonic path because of the monster cards in his
Pokemon.
You know, because Pokemon leads to devil worship, right?
Yeah.
Anime show.
Yep. See,
Those heathen Asians
I know, right? So
corrupting
trust
my
me,
white children.
tons of anger there. Tons of anger from that. The second one is the Temple of Elemental Evil. Do you guys know what that is?
Sounds familiar.
So
Is that D&D?
it's a very D&D based thing, yes. So I had this school friend who played this video game and was telling everyone about it. It was called the Temple of Elemental Evil, right? And this one time, like a little bit after that, I remember going to this friend's house and he was like, "Yo, come in here." So we all, like, there were 3 or 4 of us, all guys by the way. We go into his bedroom, he locks the door, turns off the lights and starts his computer. And I'm like,
How old were you?
okay, that's 11 maybe, 11 to 14 I want to say, around that age, right?
Okay.
So I'm thinking, oh, this is weird. Then he turns on his computer. I'm like, ooh, we gonna see some boobies. So I'm like, yeah. Nope. He actually turns the game on, and it's the Temple of Elemental Evil. Okay. Now, see, it's based off of the D&D tabletop game system, right? It's actually basically an adventure that you can go on.
Well, I'm pretty sure Elemental Evil is like a concept.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very much so.
D&D.
But there was actually a book that brought you on an adventure, like a module. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
It was an actual module called the Temple of Elemental Evil, and they made a video game out of it. So the funny thing is, though, they were more secretive about that game than they were about porn.
Wow.
Now, think about that, right?
Why?
They come from a family that is very, very strict and religious. Like, I'm not talking mainline Christianity. It was some offshoot of that. I'm not even going to name it because it doesn't matter. It's religion.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And I remember at one point, they actually came to school and they were talking about how they were punished because their mom found it. So I'm like, that's so weird.
And this is so weird for me to hear it because I played Quake 2 when I was maybe 8 or 9, and my dad knew I was playing it because he loaded it up on the computer. And that was my first ever shooter game, I believe, too. So that was pretty awesome. But that's just so weird for me to hear because I grew up with video games. My parents were pretty okay with the majority of games I played. Like, I never really had to hide any of the games. But then hearing that your story is kind of like, what?
No, and that's a thing. That's a thing that happened, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. This was like late 90s, early 2000s. So really, one sec. You want in?
Hi, cat. We have cat visitor.
But this was a thing that was happening, and it was definitely more prevalent where I was because I was in a religious
area.
Yeah, I was in a religious circle. You know, I was in a family that went to church every Sunday, so I saw more of this, and that made me furious. That made me angry. And honestly, if anything were to drive me away from Christianity, it would have been that. Just seeing that. Well, see, even my mom, who, by the way, like I said, tolerant, right? She's tolerant. Like I said, Temple of Elemental Evil was based off of D&D, which I did not really have very much contact with growing up, by the way. But I love D&D now.
Yep.
I now know, of course, that a lot of archetypes in video games kind of come directly from established D&D characters. It's the predecessors of RPGs, which I absolutely love, even before knowing about D&D.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this today. D&D, a lot of it is based off of Lord of the Rings, like elves and stuff, which is based off of, not solely based off of, but is drawn heavily from Norse mythology. So I just thought that was really cool. I was really excited about that.
So I started playing D&D with 5th edition.
Yeah.
Right? And around when 5th edition came out.
Oh, so like a couple years ago?
Yeah, basically. Like maybe 3-4 years ago at this point. And I'd like to give a shout out to Dan Harmon for the community series, just because that honestly pushed me towards D&D like you would not believe. So I love it. I still watch that D&D episode.
Oh, it's
Absolutely
so good.
love it. Anyways, so I told my mom, hey mom, so have you heard of this thing called Dungeons and Dragons? And she's like, yeah, I think so. Isn't that the thing with the devil worship? And I'm like, wait, what? Because I was excited. I was excited to tell my mom about this because, you know, I always told her about the video games that I played every now and then. You know, I'd be like, Mom, check this game out. This is the character. This is how I play it, etc. So I was like, Mom, you'll never...
this was recent, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you started? Okay.
So I told my mom about D&D, and she's like, isn't that the thing with the devil worship? Like, what? I couldn't believe it, right? I'm like, no. So I explained what it was, and she's like, oh, yeah, that doesn't sound demonic at all.
Like, apart from
if
there
anything,
being...
we're just like slaughtering demons as we go.
Yeah, we're killing devils and stuff.
Well,
unless you're tiefling. But that's
well,
different.
In my head, though, I was like, is this what they actually think of this? Like, I've never had that. Yeah. So, apparently that is. Like, I'm actually reading through a book right now called Of Dice and Men. By this guy called David Ewalt, and apparently it deals with the rise and fall of D&D in the 80s, and apparently it's association to like satanic rituals, because I wanted to know more about this.
Yeah, that makes
floored
sense.
me that was what my mom was like, hey, isn't that thing with devil worship? Well, I'm like, hold up, what?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, so
Dungeons and dragons.
But see, I explained it.
Satan,
And
it
she
has
was-
a D.
I explained it though, and she was cool with it. She understood. Oh, it's a game.
Yeah.
She doesn't
It is.
understand it, of course, because
Yeah.
She's
it's
a
the
mom.
game. But you know, it's the same thing. It's just like the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's just like Digimon and Pokemon. It's the thing that a lot of these closed-minded people don't understand is it's about good things. You know, it's about defeating some great evil.
Yeah, pretty much. And what's interesting about they've done lots of studies with D&D, and it really helps people just be more creative because they're always using their mind. They're trying to. You have to actively be creative to come up with things to do. How to get out of situations, how to defeat characters, how to interact with characters, all that kind of stuff. So you're
Whether or
always
not you
using.
take a wolf.
Always say yes.
Always take.
Yes and. But yeah, it's like you're always using your mind and you're always being creative and you're always trying to think of stuff, right? And what is bad about that? It's just, and it's in a world that doesn't exist, that can never exist. Like with characters with magic that doesn't exist, with creatures that can never exist. Like it just it boggles my mind that there are Christian or religious families that are like, oh yeah, you can't play this because it represents something that doesn't even exist. It can't exist. It can't. Like, ugh.
To add to Arvin's little thing here, growing up in like a Baptist church household, like I literally would have to hide the fact that I play all these games. Like my family didn't care. I was playing like Mortal Kombat since I was tiny because my uncle had it and we were like, let's go, and I would sit there and just like casually rip someone's head off. It's like, that's cool. But like as soon as I went into church, I had to hide the fact that I played any kind of game. Pokemon was another thing in my church that was banned for the fact that it promoted gambling.
Oh no!
And yeah, and I was like, how? How does this promote gambling? I think it was because like kids would trade cards, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And like the kids at my church were already just completely brainwashed. Like they were the freakiest little like.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry because I feel like none of y'all are gonna ever. Fucking lie.
Nobody
Fuck
listens
you
to
guys.
us anyways. It's fine.
Stop. You guys were insane. But like, I remember going to one of their houses where they literally had no board games except Monopoly. I didn't know what the they did. But for some reason they were allowed to read the Silmarillion.
That's really weird because that is
But that's the thing. They were allowed to read the Silmarillion.
similar. Really.
Silmarillion, whatever, Silmarillion,
Silmarils.
Silmarillion, lizard thing. But not Lord of the Rings. Because
Interesting.
it dealt with magic.
The whole thing deals with magic.
I know.
Like,
that was the weirdest thing to me.
Eru is like because like it.
My church, you weren't allowed to watch Harry Potter, and I was not having any of that because it was since grade
Like,
2. So
I'm reading through the Silmarillion right now, and it's literally about the creation of the Lord of the Rings universe and through the first and second ages and all that kind of stuff.
I think they were using it as a Jesus allegory lion thing.
It's
But-
I could
but-
kind of see that because like there is Eru Iluvatar, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is like the god of gods essentially, but then he also creates the Ainur, which is like the pantheon of other gods and all this kind of stuff. So like, but I just don't understand religion to begin with. So it's hard for me to enunciate, I guess.
So the thing is, coming from a religious background, not even coming from a religious background, being of a religious background, present tense, right? Mm-hmm. The one thing that pisses me off about religion, not just my own, about any religion really, is the misinterpretation of what that religion means.
Yep.
Right? To bend things to your own will, and when that will is you don't like something. That pisses me off to, like, Kingdom Come. You have no idea. That, to me, is the worst thing that you could possibly be doing. So really, what's my point? Like, what the is my point in all this? It's simple. My video games, my fandoms, the comic books I read, the books I devoured, all of this, it shaped who I am, and I think it shaped me into a decent human being. Mm-hmm. Sure, I look like a bee, but you know it's, but it's who I am. You know, I'd hate to think that there's some lonely fat kid out there like I was when I was 14, who is getting punished because, you know, they're playing a certain video game or reading a certain book or comics or listening to music or anything that he likes because his place of worship, his church, doesn't understand it. You know, because it helped me
because
through
they
a lot.
don't choose to understand it, and that's the thing that pisses me off is they never choose to understand it. They just deem it bad because they want it to be.
And that's wrong. See, I love being a Christian. Don't get me wrong. I do. When I find myself in times of trouble. Like it's true though. When I do find myself in those times, it's something that I lean back onto, right? I hate what people are doing in misusing that. There's a lot of places and instances where Christianity is being misused for the wrong thing, by the way. This is a very small part of it. But I'm talking about that specifically because I am a geek. I am a nerd. I am a gamer. Right? I'm a fan. It's better now. 100%. It's a better now.
Yep.
But I'm raising my kids to play D&D. I'm raising them to defeat the Temple of Elemental Evil. And because you know what? And this is the parting thought here. The world needs more heroes who believe in paladins who slay chromatic dragons. We don't need kids who hide video games better than they hide their porn.
Hey, that's a good note to go out on.
Oh, before we go, this is a good one. My mom, she would like buy me like little cards just because like they were pretty. She thought because I was really into art even as a child, so she bought me this one card that I would carry around everywhere with me. I took it to church one day. And guess what that card was? Oh, no. It was a magic card. They thought I was doing witchcraft. And they were like, Satan! And I was like, my mom bought it for me. And they're like, what is this? And it's like, it's a magic card. It's a game. And they just freaked the out. And I was like, this is glorious. And I just walked off. I was like, give me my goddamn card.
If I'm ever in that situation, honestly, and this is me being real, if I ever get the chance to have kids, and I'm supporting my kids in whatever the hell they want to do, up until the point that they're actually summoning Cthulhu in my basement, okay? That's it.
When the circles start coming out, bitch, you need to go.
Then we're done. Then I ain't supporting you no more. But up until that point, do what you will. Yeah. I might regret that later on when I actually have kids, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what the landscape is in 10 years or so.
Anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining us on this extra long episode of One Up.
Episode 2.
Again, my name's Arvin.
I'm David.
I'm Shiloh.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.